Humans are social animals. That means it is a need to have relationships with other people. But relationship doesn't necessarily mean romantic relationships. It can also be a relationship with your friends, or what we call friendship, or your family, or even classmates and workmates. In this video, we will talk about relationships, especially how communication shapes our relationships with people. Here, we will discuss the life cycle of relationships, the types of intimate relationships, some problems that we may encounter in relationships, and some ways on how to address these problems. When two individuals are interdependent, there is what we call a relationship. This means that one person's behavior affects the other. If we have a healthy relationship with other people, we develop and grow as a person. If we have a toxic relationship with other people, we are perceived by others as someone whom they will not hang out with. Interpersonal communication helps us to conduct our relationships, particularly to conduct good and healthy relationships. So, what are the functions of a relationship? One is the constitutive function, or that communication messages exchanged in a relationship form the relationship. Every time we talk and interact with a partner, we continue to define, refine, and redefine our relationship. Next is the instrumental function, or that communication messages exchanged in a relationship are the means through which we accomplish our personal and our relationship goals. You can say that you are a user because of that relationship. You may use communication to get what you need from your partner or group, or you may use communication to change or level up or level down your relationships with people. And finally, we have the indexical function, or that interaction between relationship partners indicates what the relationship is like. In our communication, we may show that we're the dominant one in the relationship, or we may show that the other person is in charge of the relationship at that point in time. We can also describe relationship in several ways. First is intimate versus distant. Are you close with each other, or are you just acquaintances? Next is voluntary versus involuntary. Is the person a member of your family? Are you assigned to be his or her buddy? Or did you choose that person to be your friend or your romantic partner? And last is platonic versus romantic. Do you consider your partner as your friend or more than a friend? Or are you confused with your relationship with him or with her now? We also have five dimensions of relationships. First is interdependence. It gauges the extent to which partners rely on each other to meet their needs. As you get to know someone and become more intimate with that person, you also start to consider each other's preferences, make decisions together, and mutually rely on each other. Second is commitment. It gauges how dedicated or loyal partners are to each other. Are you committed because you enjoy being with that person? Or are you committed because you have a moral obligation with that person? Third is understanding and predictability. It gauges how well partners understand and can predict each other's behaviors. The more you become closer to that person, the more you get to know them, and the more it reduces your uncertainty with that person, and the more you get to predict his or her behavior in that particular situation. Fourth is interpersonal trust. It gauges the extent to which people believe that their partners will not intentionally harm them. This involves expectations, or knowing how they are supposed to act according to expectations. Our trust, of course, is lower when it comes to strangers, but as soon as they become dependable, responsive, collaborative, and faithful, our interpersonal trust with them increases. And fifth is self disclosure, or the extent to which partners share with each other information and feelings through interaction and feedback. Now that we get the idea of interpersonal relationships, let's now go to the life cycle of relationships. The change of stages in relationships are marked by turning points. The first one is the beginning stage. When we start a relationship, we usually have three phases. First is the entry phase, where we filter out the people that we like or we don't like, thus including them or excluding them. Next is the personal phase, where we try to disclose with them and also get to know them to see if we're compatible with them. And finally, the exit phase, where we determine whether to continue in developing the relationship or stay as is. The next stage is the developing stage. We choose to develop relationships with people who can meet our interpersonal needs for inclusion, affection, and control, with whom social exchanges are more beneficial than costly. If the person cannot meet our relationship needs, and if the social exchange is costly, we most likely not to invest with that person, or our relationship with them remains stagnant. The next stage is the sustaining stage. We sustain relationships by being polite and friendly, by observing ceremonial occasions like birthdays or vacations, by spending time together, by conversing frequently about intimate topics, by providing assurance of our continuing affection, discretion, and trustworthiness instead of ghosting them, and by managing relational dialectics or the tensions in relationships. The last stage is optional. It is deteriorating or ending stage. We end relationships if we experience something wrong during the sustaining or developing stages, or if we cannot manage or control the relationship threats that we experience. More on that later. But relationships could either continue to be sustained or would end up to be deteriorated. Remember, it depends on you and your partner or group if you want to end or continue your relationship with them. You always have a choice. There are three types of intimate relationships: romantic relationships, family relationships, and friendships. Let's explore them one by one. A successful long-term romantic relationship involves mutual respect, presence of a shared plan or life vision, and a comfortable level of closeness. However, not all long-term romantic relationships are successful, and most of them encounter challenges such as maintaining intimacy, managing life transitions, negotiating an equitable distribution of work, and sustaining affection and desire. These challenges are difficult, but they can be managed by talking and listening to each other. Family relationships can be seen as relationship between a parent and a child, sibling relationships, and family as a whole. Commitment is a very important aspect in family communication because commitment helps nurture the child and improves sibling relationships that may prepare them for socializing with other people. Studies show that children with secure attachments to their parents usually become adults who are able to easily form intimate relationships because they have high self-worth and trust. Family communication patterns depends on the conversation and conformity set by families. So, how do you often talk with your family? Are they more open to listen to your feelings and thoughts? Are they also open to share those things with you? Are they strict? Do they encourage you to be independent and be diverse? These questions will help you know the extent of the conversation and conformity of your family. Family communication and relationships can be improved by creating opportunities for intimate communication, respecting individual interests and accomplishments, and recognizing and adapting to change. Friendships are voluntary, platonic relationships characterized by equality and reciprocity. You consider someone as a friend when you relatively see them as your equal, even if they are superior or more influential than you on paper. In other words, you can interact with them, spend time with them, and relate with them with ease. Friendships also have a pattern of giving and taking of activities, resources, and communication. You benefit from each other, you value each other, and you have expectations from one another, and you do your best to meet those expectations. Friendships are most likely to form between people who have frequent contact, similar demographic traits, and engage in the same activities. These intimate relationships are relationships that we always take part and encounter every time. However, we also encounter some threats and challenges in these relationships. This can be in form of infidelity. Infidelity comes in two forms: sexual and emotional infidelity. Sexual infidelity occurs when people in a romantic relationship engage in sexual activity with someone other than their partners. Emotional infidelity occurs when someone develops romantic feelings towards someone outside the relationship. Jealousy is also a perceived threat in relationships. It is a natural reaction when you feel that you might lose a valued relationship to a third party or with something else. You might notice that your romantic partner hangs out more with their friends instead of hanging out with you. Or you might feel that your parents pay for your sibling more than you. Jealousy can be managed, but if not, it can be destructive and may cause possessiveness or having the desire to control another person to ensure that they are only exclusive with you. When someone becomes possessive, he or she limits the space for his or her partner, and sooner or later they will demand space. Parents who are possessive with their children have tendency to be not liked by their children because they want to be independent. Friends who are possessive with their friends would turn out to be a disastrous friendship and would question the relationship and the expectations of the friendship. A romantic partner who is possessive with their partner would most likely lead to a more secretive partner and would eventually cause infidelity. So, what can we do about these things? We can start by maintaining relationship satisfaction, affection, and desire. We can do these things by engaging in open and honest communication about your feelings, whether to your romantic partner, friend, parent, or sibling. Opening up and being honest may be new to your culture of relationship, but these things are essential so you can set out goals, expectations, and boundaries with each other. This is why communication shapes our relationships. If we know how to express our emotions and perceptions, as well as we know how to manage conflict and provide feedback, we will be able to overcome these challenges and be better at relationships. Sometimes we fail, we lose our friends, or we have a bad relationship with our family, or we break up with our romantic partner. But these can also be lessons that we might take to be a good communicator and be better in interpersonal relationships.